Hello everyone. I will show you the new features that were implemented in Patchwork 3D version 2023 that should be released in March of the same year. So let's start with the lens shift feature. So this can be found in the camera editor. So when you select a camera and you enable the editing mode, you can find the shift here in X to shift horizontally, or in Y to shift vertically. This can be also found in the mode here in the lens shift. This can be used in order to change the framing of an object without modifying its perspective, because when you do a simple pan, as you can see, the silhouette of the object is deformed and is not respected. So if you use the lens shift mode, you can move the object in place without ever deforming the image. So this can be used to make framings that were not possible before, except when rendering a very big image and then using the crop tools in Photoshop, in order to do this kind of framing. So that's the first function that I wanted to show you. The next function that I need to show you is when you have lots of objects in your hierarchy, in the geometry layers or in Kinematics, we added the research function that will allow you to quickly find objects, and this can be used in many lists of Patchwork. You can either filter or research. If I switch to filter, the rest of the hierarchy is not shown. If I am on research, I can still see everything. And if I add multiple instances of the same, they all show in orange, and I can switch between them with the arrows. This is implemented in the kinematics, in the geometry layers and the surfaces. It's also in the camera editor list. And in matter, it can be found in the aspect layer and in the environment layer as well. Also, you can find it in the configuration editor, so we will add it at many lists later. For now, it's not yet used in the materials, in the environments, and in the resources of the file, but this will progress in later releases. Also you can find it in the keyboard map if you want to find a specific function of Patchwork in order to add a keybind to it. We've added also a small tool that can help in cameras when you have a lot of groups. Here I don't have many, but the function is the same. You can open all groups of camera or close them in order to go faster in the workflow. This is also available in the kinematics. You can close all kinematics and open them all to facilitate the work of the user. Also, the kinematic window can now be opened in a new floating window. This allows to set it in full screen if you have a lot of information, a big hierarchy tree, it can help. And if you are working with multiple screens, you can have the kinematics on another screen and still play with the geometry layers, which was not possible before. In the kinematics, we've added a small improvement as well. You can now insert a vector, nulls, and axes directly underneath an object as a child object, instead of sending it only at the root of the tree. So this can help with big trees to organize better and faster. We've implemented also the new API of HDR Light Studio, which can be used to create your own environments. So when using HDR Live Studio, you have a new HDR map, and you can place lights in HDR Light, and it will reflect the result in Patchwork 3D. Before, we only had the lighting tool and the reflection tool that can be used to place lights on the object. We now have the rim light tool, which can place light behind the object in order to create some lighting behind it to accentuate the silhouette of it. If I place the object here, I can now have these tools. So this one is to place lights. This one was to place reflections. And the last one, which is the new one, it will create a light in the back that will help accentuate some parts of the object. It will create light behind the object. Also, if you have HDR Light Studio license, which I do not have for this demo, you can have a preview of the Patchwork 3D rendering in HDR Light's window directly, without any manipulations to do. So it's quite easy to work with. One last improvement that we've made is we've added some UX friendly interface. So you have now discolored borders on the viewport. Well, they existed before. There is the white one to show which viewport is active. This one was already there. But you had some functions like lock selections that will create a red one. And sometimes users were activating this modes without knowing it, and they were stuck because it affects the viewport and what can be selected, and they didn't know how to disable it. So now we've made this a bit more clear by adding this text on the top of the viewport, and you can disable the different modes directly from here. The blue border is a new one, and it will help say that you are in a camera that is currently editable. So if I move around, I'm editing my camera. Meanwhile, I can also check the view of a camera. And as you can see, I called the camera's view, but I'm not editing it, so I don't have the border. If I attach the camera, then I have the border, I have the aspect ratio of the camera, and now I'm editing it. Also, we have added some buttons here because they were a bit more hidden before to help you define what rendering you want in the viewport and which camera you want to call and on which view you want to set the viewport. This can also be available in Matter. And in Matter, if you want, you can also, well, not really in Matter, you can also have the preview of the camera that you are editing directly in deported view. So I can right click on it. I can either switch to the point of view and I can see what the camera sees, or I can select a camera and open a floating viewport. And now this is what my camera sees, and I know I'm in editing mode because there is the blue border, and in Shaper I can then move my camera around and see what it's seeing in real time. So this again will help with framing the objects in real time with more easier workflow, and it will be much simpler for the user. This is most of the features in version 2023, and if you have any question, feel free